This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Are you ready for a camping challenge? Cows kill more Americans each year than snakebites. According to the CDC, 5 Americans per year die from snakebites, while cows kill 22. If you are ready for a change in your camping habits, give Cowboy Camping a try. Cowboy Camping is when you sleep at night without a tent or camper. You just use a sleeping bag. This style of camping gets its name from how cowboys slept in old Western movies. My favorite TV Western is Cheyenne. It starred Clint Walker as Cheyenne Body. Walker was a big man, but Cheyenne was a kind-hearted drifter who helped right wrongs in the cities he visited. James Garner, who, if you're over 40, will remember as Rockford, and if you're under 40, he plays the older version of Ryan Gosling's character in The Notebook, was supposed to play Cheyenne, but he missed the phone call. At least one time in every episode of Cheyenne, he ends up sleeping on the ground next to the campfire. And that was the inspiration for Mark Wilcox's latest book guide, Cowboy Camping. Valeria interviews Mark Wilcox. He is the author of Cowboy Camping, a guide for camping without a tent, camping tips and tricks, and several other books on camping. Mark is also the co-founder of Camping Forge, a website about camping and backpacking. He once backpacked 100 miles in 90 days. After 25 years in IT, Mark has made it his mission to help people enjoy the outdoors. Mark has published over 31 books on camping, backpacking, and outdoor survival. Meet Mark at campingforge.com. Here's the interview with Mark Wilcox.
In your own words, who is Mark Wilcox?
Howdy, everybody. My name is Mark Wilcox. I'm the co-founder of a website called Camping Forge, where we help people learn how to get into camping, backpacking, and however they like to enjoy it, whether you want to go super primitive and like outdoor survival, or if you want to fully glamp out your experience.
Oh, wow. That sounds wonderful to me as an introduction. The follow-up question is, what inspired you to become interested in camping? What is about camping that attracted you so much?
I've always liked being in the outdoors. Let's just say where I'm from. I currently live the Dallas, Texas area, and I grew up in about 2 hours south of where I live now in a place called Waco, Texas. And I grew as many people in my generation, so I'm a Gen Xer. But we were still, I think we were the last generation that was really heavily involved in Boy Scouts. And my dad was my scoutmaster. And I went all the way from Cub Scout all the way to Eagle Scout. And I camped quite a bit during my youth. Then when I got to be an adult, I stopped camping I joke, I stopped camping in tents and started camping in hotels because I was a traveling consultant for 20 years. Then when I was able to stop that. One of the benefits of the lockdown era was we showed everybody that I didn't have to travel on site to answer people's questions. I could do it remotely. And when I didn't have to travel all the time, it gave me time to go back out and start camping again. And my friend Tina called me she liked to camp in RVs, and we got together and thought we would start a blog together. And I thought she would write about RVs and I would write about uh, tent camping and backpacking, and started doing that. And I met a couple friends who, and all of us are blessed enough that we have families and jobs that allow us to go pretty frequently. And I have a wife who says, I see her Monday through Friday, and if I want to go camping on the weekends, she doesn't. She wants to be out of the house, I guess, just to say.
That sounds really good. It sounds like fun to me, camping. I'm not used to it. I think I have never done it. Maybe one time on the beach. But it just sounds one like fun and also very light in a sense of being close to nature. There's something about the lightness, almost in a sense of healing. It feels just so incredible to be out there. I'm wondering why so many people, like my husband, he's from New York, and even to take his shoes off when we go to the beach, he has a hard time doing that. He walks on the sand using his sneakers. I cannot believe it. So how do you make sense of that, Mark, in a way? Why? Yeah.
Well, I was a joke about saying I understand your husband's reluctance about walking on the sand and barefoot for beach sand's a whole different experience.
Okay.
And I say that from a person who's very pale. I've been sunburned very badly on my feet. So you sometimes so I don't blame him on the beach, but in general, to answer your question, what it is we grow up and we're become so accustomed to having everything being perfect in our house, and we don't encourage discomfort. And so when we go out and we sometimes, and also I would say is what happens is people, it's just human nature. We want to watch dramatic things. And so when you're watching outdoor movies or TV shows or just even news or, things that pop up and things that go viral on social media, it's always the most extreme. And you're always like, oh, there's could be on the beach. Maybe your husband saw a video about, deadly jellyfish of Australia, not understanding that's one little kilometer of a beach in Australia, not not every beach in the world. Or people here. I live in, like I said, Central Texas. There's no bears. There's not been bears here for a few centuries. People will go outside. They won't go camping because they're afraid of a bear. Right. And so people have this thing. And on top of that, sometimes when you go outdoors, it's if you didn't grow up camping, it is hard to know how to keep yourself comfortable. And before we started, I talked about how I like taking new people out camping and doing my best to make sure they have an enjoyable time. But even that, like I said, camping, meaning sleeping outside, is that's a bit extreme. So I can understand for baby steps, but just get outside and go visit a park, go walk on a beach, go find maybe just have a local arboretum or a little, like I said, just a little park just to go out and walk around. And I would say, I'm again, a person who lives in Texas, depending on the year, I would warn you not to walk barefoot into the woods.
Yes.
There are things on the ground that that can cause you pain. So wear shoes. But other than that, but if you're on nice green grass, you know exactly where you're watching where you're stepping. Hey, go barefoot. It's always feels that the clean grass through your toes does feel nice.
Yes, and this is something also that's scientifically proved in a way. I believe these days. I think it's called grounding. Have you heard about
grounding?
Electromagnetic field that's really good for the body? It just balances the system. So, especially the nervous system. So, there's something you just said about discomfort. It seems like the human species, not as a whole, but probably most of us, have become almost like allergic to the idea of being uncomfortable. Right, Mark?
Yeah. Oh, I would totally agree with that. You are so right. The people are alert. I love that phrase, allergic to being uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's ironic because we all know growth comes from being uncomfortable, regardless, whatever.
Yeah.
And we're not even talking about real discomfort here. Like this past Saturday, I went camping. It was a winery about an hour from my house. I met a friend up there. the winery has a campsite on property with their vineyards. Very beautiful property.
Oh, I
Very,
can imagine.
very, very pretty.
Yeah.
How it was cold that night, but like I said, there was no threat of rain. There was no threat of wind, which are the two biggest things you have to worry about when you go outdoors, both from just a comfort level and a safety level. I will say, again, when you're going outdoors, some of these things, it's not just discomfort. It can become dangerous. But I slept, within arm's reach of my car. So even though I was sleeping outside without my tent, if the weather had turned bad on me, I was I could get into my car right quickly. I was having an adventure. I wasn't being stupid.
Yeah. So you're prepared. Yes.
Yes. But meanwhile, because I was trying to encourage my buddy, he's similar to you. He's brand new to camping. I mean, but he's trying, and I was trying to persuade him to hey, just ditch the tent. This is the night where you can try it, and our cars are right here. So if you do get cold, or the vineyard had a warm, they had showers on site, and the showers were heated. I said, so if you got cold, you could go in there and warm up. But it's sort of funny how people still can't. They still have to take these baby steps to there. He still felt a little bit more safer with the thin material of his tent. But I'll wrap it up by saying, in the morning we woke up. It had gotten below freezing, and I remember waking up about 7:30 in the morning because the sun came up over the hills. And I was like, oh, I'm warm. I'm feeling good. I had properly prepared. I had all my blankets. I was feeling good. And about an hour later, I got him up because we had agreed to wait till the sun came up a little bit, and got up, and I asked him how he slept. He's like, I slept miserable.
He was very honest. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Well, you got to get prepared. He's still a beginner. You got to take time. But
yes.
It did at least prove my point was just your tent alone is not going to make you sleep comfortable at night.
Yes. So it's taking the baby steps if we're beginners like myself and your friend. But I wanted to ask you a question about, this idea of, again, discomfort, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That is such a powerful topic, overcoming fears and being ready for challenges in life, because that's what really we are here for, right? In a way, we need to be ready for anything that could happen. So with that being said, the question for you is, have you noticed the change within yourself regarding facing challenges after all these years camping, Mark?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did. Oh, yes. I'm glad you asked. Yeah, my most profound thing happened to me would have been 2 years ago. I had, like a lot of people, we have anxiety. This is before I went on my camping trip, and specifically this trip. What it was, I backpacked 26 miles through what's called Big Bend National Park. It's in Southwest Texas. It's even by Texas standards, it's remote. I know you said you're from Europe, and I mean, this is one of those things where we hide a country inside the entire state, and so it's still even from Dallas was a 10-hour drive.
Wow.
And so we backpacked over a week over mountains, very remote, in a desert. We had to drive ahead at certain campsites and put water because there's no water in the area, and so it was a little. I mean, some of my anxiety was just nervous about going on a trip like this, but I'm just talking about my life in general. Have stressful job, pressure on that. And I remember at the end of that week when I got done, I just felt this profound calmness. It's only I can explain it as this. I do remember coming back to work going like, oh yeah, there's 14 disasters going on. I am responsible for solving all of them. They are all quote unquote important. But I was, but I'm like, but I'm very calm. And thankfully that the first message that came to me was over Slack and not a phone call, because I might have been sent to HR because I was like the day before I was on the side of a mountain trying not to die. I understand the sales deal is important, but calm down.
Yes, right. Wow. So you see that connection again, right? We becoming more resilient. I think that's a very good word to use when it comes to that. It's becoming not just stronger, but resilient. Kind of going through whatever challenges that we are going through within the body or perceived fear, and then getting out of that state faster to being able to do that, having the tools. And that takes training. So I think camping comes across to me as a training for the mind and body at so many levels, actually.
Oh, you're right. I didn't really thought about that, but I agree, totally agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, it really, that's what it's coming to me as a message. Like, oh, that's a training, would be a training in my case. I mean, I had enough, enough challenges and a lot of coping. I think I'm good now, but I love the idea of being outside, and I'm always outside looking for the opportunity to be out there in nature. So I want to mention now, before we talk about meditation and actually spiritual experiences, you have written, gosh, like 31 books on the topic of camping.
Yeah.
That's amazing, like a camping expert.
Yeah.
Camper lover. So the
Yeah.
latest book is Cowboy Camping, a
Yes.
guide for camping without a tent, or camping tips
Yep.
and tricks. And I also want to mention that, again, you mentioned at the beginning, you're the co-founder of Camping Forge as well.
Yep.
And I'll be asking more questions about that. So
Sure.
going back to the topic, and even before the meditation and spiritual experiences, there's something funny that you said. I think in your book, I have your book, The Cowboy Camping.
Oh, thank you.
And I read there you talk about cows that most people killed, actually, 22 people get killed a
Yes.
year, more than snakes, right? More people
Yes.
die from. So that, I mean, I never heard about that before. How could this happen? Just people walking around cows, sleeping around them. How did this? That was. I mean, it's funny, but not funny, really.
Yeah, well, I would say most of them. I think most of the fortunately, most people killed by cows are, I think, it's workplace accidents. There's people there, cowboys working on farms and ranches, and something happens. And while I live in Texas, was never a cowboy, but my father-in-law, he was. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was a real legit cowboy, and he could tell me, yeah, I mean, cows are these giant animals that if
Yes, so cute.
you do anger them, you can
Really? Oh,
they can seriously harm you.
wow.
And there are occasional people who, usually drunken male teenagers, who sneak onto farms and make the cows angry. But part of the thing that inspired me to learn that fact was there's a YouTuber, and she had an encounter. She's one of the camping YouTubers, and she woke up in a field. And she was car camping. She was living out of her vehicle, and opened the door, and there was a cow standing there, and she was very happy by saying, "Oh, hi, cow.
Yes.
I'm a vegetarian. I'm not going to harm you."
Yes.
And then the cow headbutted her.
Oh, God.
And she had to
Yes.
rush to the hospital. She had a
Yes.
cut in her head, a
Oh,
concussion. And then she was the first person who told me that,
uh-huh.
because the doctor told her that, yeah, about 100 people a year globally are killed by cows, more than people, die from at least bears and,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
bears, right.
yeah,
Right. That's
yeah. So that's one of the things. Yeah, in the United States, deer kill 600 people a year, car
oh,
accidents,
wow. That's
and it's so these are, like you said, yeah, people were always more so terrified of snakes or so terrified of bears. Which again, you should take these animals, you should respect them. But if you follow some very simple tactics, or techniques, you probably never see one of these animals. Like of all my times if camping here in Texas, and I know there's snakes everywhere I go, I have never seen a venomous snake in the wild. The only time I've ever seen a venomous snake was in a friend's backyard.
right. Ah, wow. You see, you're making a very good point. Yes. Of that's actually it's safe. Like you said, if you're prepared, and of course we have to be aware, right? Of our surroundings, you're always attentive, but not in a paranoid way. I love the idea of going to nature and relaxing and not overthinking and being fearful.
Yeah, I will say real quick this. I just tell her, if you're going out there, I mean, because a lot of times you go off and particularly with social media and YouTube, you'll go off and you'll be naturally want to watch people doing extreme stuff. That's not how most people camp. Most people are going to go to a prepared campground, or the car is going to be less, a few meters away, a few 100 yards away in American terms.
That,
And so,
right.
and you're going to have a nice tent. You'll probably have electricity. You'll have running water. You'll have a real toilet. So you can go out there and enjoy being outdoors, but without having to give up everything of society, and also, most importantly, keep yourself safe.
Yes, that's a huge one. For most of us, I think it's just an intelligent thing to do, right? Keep safety in mind. I want to go back to that comment. So I got that wrong, right? Cows kill more people than bears. And then you also mentioned something else that was funny, dogs. I think that's when I mixed up dogs with snakes. You said dogs are more dangerous than snakes, actually.
Dogs are most dangerous. But actually, no, you were correct to say, I would say, at least in the United States, cows are definitely more dangerous than bears and snakes.
Right.
I don't know about worldwide. Snakes probably kill more people just because if you're out in the jungle somewhere and you can't get treatment. But yeah, dogs are, I'm much more, the scariest animals encounters I've ever personally had in the outdoors have all involved dogs. And I love dogs. I have a pet dog, but it's people, particularly if you're hiking. Well, I say the closest I've ever gotten to a serious injury was at a state park, and somebody was walking their dog, and the dog I wasn't doing anything. We were just normal, like we were coming back to our campsite after a night hike, and they were walking their dog just on the road by the campgrounds, and for whatever reason, that dog snapped at me. And I mean, if he had actually bitten me, I would have had to go to the emergency room. I may have even lost use of my hand. I was up, that kind of a big of a dog. Meanwhile, wildlife, I said it's a funny thing because that was also the same night I encountered my first alligator, and like I said, as soon as and I didn't even know the alligator was there. He jumped back in the water as soon as I got close to him.
Yeah.
And compared to the dog, the dog, I don't blame the dog. I don't blame more the owners not keeping better control of the dog, because the dog was the dog was like, it's night. You can't see me, but I'm 6'4", and I'm on paper, I'm the same average height and weight of an NFL linebacker. So to that dog, I'm an imposing unknown figure coming to it and its owner. So I get it, but on the other hand, it does remind me that the animals I'm most worried about are not really the stuff of horror movies.
Yes, right. See, because there's a lot of that. Let's say the commercialized kind of portray of animals and the human experience in general, because what you said earlier too about people looking for extremes to see what they believe it to be something exceptional and all that, but it's just propaganda in a way. It's entertainment, right? What we see on TV, movies, and all
that. It's entertainment. There is some propaganda. But I don't want to get myself. I don't want to get ourselves in trouble there. But for example, talk about bears. I mean, bears are a successful story. It doesn't get talked about how much we've done conserving bears. So I do want to say we do a good job for humans like the polar bear population is doing much better than it was. But you're right. Overall, it's just, it's more entertaining to watch a movie called Cocaine Bear than to watch out the fact that bears will run away from you 99% of the time.
Right. You see, because that's what they're doing too. It's safety. It's all about safety for them.
Yeah.
Your book, Cowboy Camping. Talk to me about the main purpose of writing the book, Mark. I have the outline here, just in case.
No. It's funny because I was outlining. One of the things I was doing this morning before I got on the call was working on outlining for an update, and perhaps might even expand it into a full course now.
Wonderful.
I got inspired. I started, like a lot of people, started car camping, which just means you're not necessarily sleeping in your car. It just means you're carrying everything with your car. And then I got interested into backpacking. And because I live here in Texas, where we go backpacking often is desert kind of conditions, I realized it was I can save 5 pounds of weight by leaving my tent at home. And because I have survival skill knowledge, I knew that if worst case scenario, if I did had surprise rainstorm, for example, I had a poncho with me. I could fashion that into a tent, I realized how much more enjoyable that was for camping, and how much weight and time it saved. I don't just waste time, setting up and taking down a tent. And then I had done some more just as a business person, done some market research, and realized there was interest in it, and there wasn't any good books or articles out there on the topic. So I decided to write it, but with also an emphasis on the book about that. It's kind of well, on one hand, it's the simplest way to camp. You put down your sleeping bag and you're done. On the other hand, it is an advanced topic because you do have to account for the weather and bugs more than you do when you're just like tent camping. For the biggest reason why the reason why we use tents is because it protects us against the rain, wind, and then they all have bug nets nowadays, so that keeps the bugs out. And so you do have to take some extra precautions there, and that's why I thought I'd write the book. And now it's been a few years since I've wrote the first edition. I realized, I can come in, and I've done, I've done dozens of nights and miles of cowboy camping in all sorts of conditions. I want to update now and say, okay, here are the lessons you can use to camp in almost anything, any weather, using very minimal equipment for people who want to add more adventure to their camping.
Yes. Wow. And you cover everything from my perspective, that it's not really a knowledgeable one about camping, but it looks very comprehensive. You have pretty much everything that I could think of: mice, bears, and then how to sleep, how the gear, and then the setup, camp to snakes, spiders, mosquitoes. I mean, you're covering everything here. So this, would you say it's would be for somebody who has some experience camping?
Yep. Yeah. So I would say it's better for I would say the two people who are probably most interested in it are somebody who's more experienced. Yeah, I'll take that back. Keep it simple, Mark. Yeah. It's best for somebody who's like some basic experience with camping. So, because cowboy camping is not a good way to get introduced to camping, just because it's harder to deal with keeping yourself particularly warm. And some people just, again, if they have a feeling, there's something in human mind that says, if I can't see outside,
Yeah,
I can't see,
yeah,
I can't see the critters that are around me. And I'm at the point now, if I go camping and I can't hear the wildlife, if I can't see stars, if I can't see the shadows moving in the night, which are usually just mice or squirrels, that I have a harder time sleeping under those conditions than if I'm sleeping just straight out in the open.
So there's this factor too. Yeah, I can't think that way because I have never had the experience. How would I sleep better? Hearing the noise or not? Yeah, that's. I'll leave that to my imagination now. I'm trying to visualize that. But it sounds, just the overall idea of being in nature, just that, it's so inspiring to me. And let's get to the topic of meditation, because most people, that's what they use. I mean, I don't want to use the word nature, but they just go out in nature for that reason, to meditate. So how did you find this way of being in nature as in a meditative one?
Yeah, well, the way it really is, I think the most important tenet of meditation is not like doing and mantras and that. It is what it really, to me, is being quiet and avoiding distractions. And so, that is something hard for people to do, even in the outdoors. I mean, I am thankful, like now we have things like Starlink, which means I can get high-speed internet anywhere on the planet, which some people really hate because I don't want the internet when I'm on a camping trip. I'm like, well, I can tell you, your phone has an off button. But other hand, like I'm married, I like being able to text my wife to let her know that I'm safe. I like to be able to know where I'm going. So, GPS, because paper maps are not updated as frequently anymore. So I know where I'm going. I can check the weather. And but anyway, I can turn these things off. And to me, it's being still. And then I also believe it is so much easier to meditate once the sun goes down. And hopefully, if you can get into a campsite that has at least more stars than you can see in your backyard. A lot of us live in cities, and there's just a lot of light pollution. And I'm not here to rant on that. That's I'm not against
Yes.
electricity.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. And when I can remember laying on my back in Big Bend National Park, which is known as the darkest skies in the United States. And you just see all these thousands of stars. You can't help but just stop thinking about everything else in your life. Like everything, you realize how small we are and how impressive we are, which I can maybe this segue into our talk about spirituality. And I think just being quiet, and you don't even have to go that. Now thinking about it, you don't have to go that extremes. Like last March, I had a really stressful month at work. It was a really busy month at work, and I went on a camp out with my buddy, and we went to this place where, of all things, we have access to a waterfall. Waterfalls are really rare for Texas.
Yeah.
They're not very common. And this wasn't a very tall waterfall, but it was a waterfall. And I put my chair next to I just put my chair in a campsite where I could be right next to the waterfall. And I just sat there for 8 hours. I didn't move. I think my friend was about ready to call the ambulance to make sure
It's not moving. It's not moving.
But in a movie, yeah. And I said, and I'm a person who does, when I go out, I mean, my thing is I'll take my phone and I like to listen to podcasts and audiobooks. That's my way of relaxation in the outdoors, way to catch up on things that I'm interested in. I can't always have time to do when I'm at home. And but there, I didn't even have my phone in. I didn't have my earbuds, and that's why I said I was really just a matter of, like, it goes back to that phrase, grounding, just sitting there. I wasn't, and doing my best to not think about anything, just letting the mind relax, because it's something we don't. It goes back to the discomfort. I think talking about the ultimate discomfort modern Western humans have is the lack of. We are so scared of boredom. We're terrified of boredom, and meanwhile, I'm like, well, many things in our blessings in our life sometimes came out of being bored.
Yes.
Or if you're a creative person, boredom is really important. Boredom is where you get the ideas. Boredom is where you start connecting the dots. Your mind has to just empty itself to where it can refill itself with ideas, and so again, it just has to be still.
Oh, I love all that. What's not to love about that wisdom? Yes, Mark. Emptying the mind or resting the mind, right? You said relaxing, resting. I found interesting the way you said, I think you phrased before, spiritual feelings you had. So you said spiritual feelings. And you just mentioned, like, thinking about life in a different way, or about your life in general. So is that your idea of spirituality? I'm just wondering, what is your spiritual views of yourself and the world?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I would say, I'm not going to get into, like, is there a God or a simulation or whatever? I don't know. I'll let that's a 3 bottles of wine campfire conversation. But anyway, I would say in general, I view it as that I think when you're out. Well, I would say this on my Big Bend trip, particularly, there was just enough things that happened, or maybe thought, like, my rational side said, okay, no, this is, luck or just serendipity. Other hand, I feel like maybe there was some other power that was involved, and if we have time, we can talk about that in more detail. But I got one story on that one. I'll say that. But I just say is that. But most importantly, I think from a spiritual standpoint, I think what's most important is not like who created this, who created us, who's answering prayers, not answering prayers. It's recognizing that we only have one life. Even if we're reincarnated, this life is one time, right? This one is it, and that we are and to make the most of it in the best that you, in whatever, situation you can. And also I would say getting out there when you see, I hope everybody at some point, doesn't have to be a full camp out. Even if you can just drive out in the countryside for an hour at night on a clear moonless night, no moon, so you can see as many stars as possible. And you look up and you can't even make out the constellations because there's just too many stars. That's when you realize exactly how small we are in the universe and how lucky we are, how blessed we are. Maybe there are aliens, well, but they're a billion miles away from here. So they're not, it's you. And so I always like to think that, and that's where it comes down to me, is this reminding that we have one life, make the most of it. And ultimately, yeah, we're all not that important.
Yes, wow. Interesting messages that I somewhat have to agree with, right? Having this experience, being whatever this is, which we call an experience, life, we just come up with labels, right? Those intellectual understandings. But yes, whatever this is just, it is happening. It's undeniable that we are aware of all these, the body, the mind, all the people seem to exist. But yeah, that's true. I talk to a lot of people here about what is to live in a life with meaning to the fullest, exploring as much as we can. I don't know, Mark, for me, it goes back to very simple things. One, being present, always in the moment and present as much as possible. And also kindness, love. There's something about that kind of, I don't know, it brings everything into harmony when I think about, treating myself with kindness, others, and everything else. There's something happens. So I don't know what comes first, is that if it is being, present, brings up the kindness and the love, or being loving makes us more present. I don't know, but there's there's a connection there. I connect.
Yeah, well, I would say it starts with intention, I think. If you intention to say, I want to be kind, I want to be loving, I want to be present, I want to, as much as possible, have a positive attitude. One of the things my friends also tease me is about my love for William Shatner's Captain Kirk. And I always think about there's a movie where they think is Star Trek II Wrath of Khan for the uber geeks out there, where they're trapped on this planet, this asteroid. And there's a time Kirk thinks, you think he's, like, you've never seen the movie before. You think they're trapped. They're never going to get off the planet. Meanwhile, his first order of business is, well, okay, I'm hungry. Do we have anything to eat? Yeah. And he's like, because it's the first order of survival, is making sure you got something to eat and drink. And I think, and that's a fundamental thing. That's a positive choice. You're saying, he was saying, that, we might get trapped on this asteroid, and people find themselves in really bad situations. But it's, if you don't, I'm not making a lot of them. There's some really horrible things that are happening. I know that. But still, I think if you can figure out, like, if something bad happens, take a moment, acknowledge it, accept it, but then start thinking, okay, how am I going to make the best out of this situation? And the reason why that is because, not to say it's a good time, but that gets your mind start working, and the more of the brain will get focused on how to make that happen.
Yes. Instead of focusing on the problem, just focusing on the solution, right? Finding solution for the problem. And also, I heard something interesting by somebody else. I think it was one of my guests. Yes. When I asked him or her, I don't remember, well, how do you make sense of suffering? And I remember they said, I don't make sense of suffering. I make meaning out of it.
Oh, wow. That's deep. Yeah, that's great. I think, because and that's always a tough one, for the theologians. Like, how do you make sense of whatever religion? How do you make sense of it? Yeah, and I think that's right. There's not everything in life has to have meaning. Like, I even had that conversation about someone that asked me about the other day about, like, some movie, like, what was the purpose of that movie? I said, sometimes it's just to make you laugh, and just because you're, want to have a good time. It's okay. It is okay to watch a movie and enjoy it, or watch two bunnies chase each other around the yard. There's no purpose beyond it, just being in that moment. And same thing with, I think, on the flip side of that is, I guess the only thing I'd say about suffering is that if you can get through it, then makes you enjoy the happiness on the side. Because I'll tell you what, it's speaking of this, I just watched last week the new Japanese Godzilla movie called Godzilla -1, and it's ironic to think that this would be the touch point. But I think this movie is one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen, and I don't mean that in any kind of silly way. I told my wife, I said, you could take the monster out of the movie, and it'd be a powerful movie. It's one of those movies where they had to have a monster to make the movie, because if they made it about World War II, there'd been too much negative reaction. And the main character goes through a lot of suffering. He goes through so much suffering, to the point where the end becomes the hero of the movie. That it just made it so much better. And suffering was a fundamental part of that movie, where the Japanese people were just talking about how much stuff they'd gone through. And as I said, it was really one of those. Ironically, I said, you want to talk a movie about watching for resilience? Yeah, it's Godzilla -1. Even though it does have a monster Godzilla in it, and for example, maybe that's how you get your husband to watch the movie.
Yeah,
you can watch it just to realize, oh wait, Mark said there's this thing, this story, and you'll see like, oh, Mark was not kidding.
Yeah, I'm writing it down here. I love, you see those. Yeah, I always try to find meaning in a sense of inspiration, really. It's almost like a celebration. Seeing some people that go through a lot of suffering, and then they're just amazing people. I have to say, I'm not saying that I'm amazing, but I went through a lot of suffering in life, really like bad stuff. And I have a very positive attitude. And I don't know how that happened, really. Sometimes it gets me thinking about life itself, just looking out for its own good, supporting itself, and looking for balance. And like I said to you off record, I believe we are not apart from nature. So nature is always looking for harmony, to go back to balance. And I think humans too, if we're not well, we're always seeking healing, right?
Oh, yeah. No.
So there's something about that. But thank you for sharing that with us here, Mark. Godzilla. I will look into the Japanese and see. Although there's a monster.
I know. I said you're going to think it's kind of ridiculous. I'm just saying, give it a shot.
Yes.
It is in subtitles, so I warn you. Yeah. But if you have to wait till it comes on home video so you can pause, it's a very entertaining movie, but it had a lot deeper meaning to it. Because like I said, I went in the movie just wanting to see a giant monster movie flick. It came out. I was crying in parts of the movie. It was so moving.
Yeah, you see. We have sometimes misconceptions. It's good to remain open, right? I love this idea of being curious and open. So thank you for sharing that too. And we're almost at the end. I do have a few more questions for you, ending questions. Something that you said that didn't leave me for some reason. You mentioned about feeling unimportant in a way, very small when we're in contact with the grandiosity of life, these. But if you think the other way too, that we are aware of these things which we call big, amazing, and the only reason we are experiencing them is because we are here. There's something here that's in the presence of this grandiose, so-called world. So I don't know, Mark. I think that makes us not just humans, but everything that's here that exists important, but not important in the sense of an egotistic way, but in it's a celebration of life again. Like, wow, I'm having this opportunity to experience this. How amazing! So that in itself is incredible, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I realize. I always come back to a lot of life. Well, I guess the fancy term is say duality, but I would say it's barbell. Right? On one hand, it's important to remember, like we are not that important. On the other hand, it's to our loved ones, to our friends, family, to our coworkers, we are important. We are, and I didn't say we're not important. Just remember that not to get yourself too wound up in thinking how important you are overall. But yeah, we are important, and I love that thing about saying how small things are. Because, for example, it's mosquitoes, of course, are like a big annoyance when you go camping. Meanwhile, there's so many animals out there that they depend. If the mosquitoes disappeared, they would die, and we would die with it. Or to think about a little broader, talking about like outer space when they get in these conversations about life. Because another reason why I got into camping was I had interest in astronomy. Not that I have fancy telescopes or anything like that. I thought I was going to invest in some of that. Never has not gotten around to it yet. But as part of my studying on that, you realize that we think there's moons here in the solar system that have water on them, and every place on planet Earth where we have found water, even if there's not been sunlight, we have found life. And I said, so there's a good chance we do have life in the solar system, but it's not little green men with Starship Enterprise. It could be just bacteria, and I just think that is still so cool. That is still so profound. I mean, talk about how you would upend everything on Earth, knowing that there is life outside of us, even if it was just bacteria or maybe small insects or small shrimp, is just to me mind blowing. And yeah, like I said, yeah, everything in life is important. Everything we are still important. You are important to your loved ones. Don't take that completely out of context. But on the other hand, it's just to think, it's more like I say, it was more like when you realize you see all these stars and that to realize that it's to keep the ego in check.
Yes, yes, a billion times that. I have heard also somebody say, a scientist said, I used to think that spirituality or anything spiritual was the opposite of that would be materialism, but it's really egotism. So spirituality, the opposite of being spiritual is being egotistical, having an ego in a sense of feeling separated from everything else. And I think that's when that sense of importance, quote unquote, comes in, when we think that, for me, that has been the case, that everything's interconnected. I don't see a separation between me and you and the microphone and the street outside. Everything's like, I'm just part of this natural world, anything that's here, and also supernatural, and everything that can be experienced, I'm part of it, because it is an experience that I can have from that perspective. Of course, we cannot experience the sun or being the moon or the sun. That's a different kind of experience.
That's right.
But we still can witness all that. That becomes an experience in itself, feeling, being in contact with whatever that those energies are. But there's something about the interconnectedness of everything that makes me feel not important, but in a state of celebration. Like,
yes.
It's just, feeling joyful for that reason alone.
Yes. Yeah, I know. I just think, yeah, I totally agree. That's why I love some of these documentaries about life that's on really extreme conditions. I remember watching, there's a movie, maybe it's 20 years old now. It's The March of the Penguins. It's about the penguins who live in Antarctica. And I've always thought this is an interesting reaction when people see that movie. Most of the reaction is people get very sad by watching the penguins who, because what happens, the penguins know when they eventually got to go back in the water, the seals are waiting for them, because circle of life, like they are. And so the penguins do not want to jump in the water, and some of the penguins get pushed in, and it's not a good outcome for those penguins. And I came out and I was so amazed at the movie. My wife was still sad about the penguins who didn't make it. And I thought, no, I says, look what these penguins do to make sure that even in the worst place on earth to live, the next generation goes on. And yeah, it's sad. Don't get me wrong. I was sad to watch what happened to the penguins, but penguin's my favorite animal. But it's like I said, but it's amazing what life does to make it to the next generation, and that's all ultimate matters in life, is that life has to use life. Will go Jurassic Park. Life finds a way. And it's, again, I think it also ties back to, like, yeah, we are connected. We all play a part. We all play our own part. It's important. Another reason why to keep yourself in a positive attitude as much as possible. And sometimes, really, what's the point of meditation? It's to reset your brain so you stop talking the stuff that keeps you from being happy. I figure sometimes I think, don't get me wrong there. I mean, if you talk to a therapist, talk to a doctor, make sure there's nothing physically wrong, an illness. But beyond that, it's making sure that just getting yourself still and reconnected, get yourself away from distractions who may be trying to make money just by you being unhappy.
Yes, Mark.
And giving yourself a chance to breathe and realize, okay, here's how I go. Here's how I go forward.
Wow, what a great message. Yes, because meditation brings quietude, brings clarity, right?
Yeah.
Of mind, of
Yeah.
thinking. How wonderful. And camping, let's go back to your own,
Right.
what you do, that's beautiful. Camping gives us these opportunities, so inspirational. I keep using the word
Yeah.
inspirational because it is. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for what you do, Mark.
Of course.
Thank you. And
Oh,
thank you for being open to these questions, to the conversation. You
oh,
took a
my
different
pleasure.
direction, but you were right there. So thank you for that.
Oh no, I appreciate it because I'm always happy to talk about camping gear and all that. But you know what, it gets a little old at times. I'm glad to have. I'm in reverse. I'm glad we had this kind of conversation. It was really nice change of pace.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that too. So before I ask you my ending questions, I have a technical one here. Do you offer through your website? Do you offer a camping coach as well? Do you guide others online, offline?
Sure, yeah. If anybody wants kind of help or like where there's like helping you find out what gear to buy or anything like that, or just how to get started, where to go camping, yeah, go ahead and just there's a contact form on the website. Just to Google up Camping Forge on Google, and you'll find the website, or campingforge.com if you're old school.
Wonderful to know. I'll have the link on the podcast profile, so campingforge.com. And before we say goodbye for today, I know I have an idea about probably how we're going to answer this question, at least one item, but I'll ask anyway. I do ask all my
Sure, go
guests
ahead.
this question. What 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they die?
Oh wow. Okay. All three. Well, yeah. So first off, I think everybody should see. Well, I don't know about camping. I'll say let's go see. Well, yeah, I think everybody should go camping at least once. Yeah, I'll be on brand here. Everybody should go camping at least once. The second thing is camping will probably lead you to the second most. I think the second thing, which is to be able to see the Milky Way at least once. That means you'll see every star possible in the sky. And the third thing I think is to meet somebody who can be third experience. What would be third? I think everybody should at least once have a fantastic meal.
Yes.
Like,
Yes, that sounds good.
I don't know where I'm moving. A fantastic meal that you didn't have to cook.
Yes, yes. How wonderful. I apologize for saying camping, like right for the first one. And I know you're about to say something else, probably, right?
Well,
Were you?
yeah, well, that's okay. Yeah, no, it's good. You kept me on brand. I said, I was saying, I would have flipped number 1 and number 2. I would have said, hey, everybody go see the stars, see the Milky Way. The best way to probably do that would be to be camping. But like I said, anything to get you outdoors. And hey, look, your best meal might actually be a camping meal. So.
Yes. Wow. You see, I think one of the best experiences that I think when I go back, it was on the beach, having a
Yeah,
bunch of people, you're singing, like
yeah.
they have the
Oh,
fire, the
yeah.
bonfire, and then I mean, that never left me, that experience. It was not really a camping experience, I think, per se,
Yeah.
but was
Right.
just amazing. I never forgotten that. Never.
Yeah, no, I'd encourage that. Like I said, I have a friend who has property in East Texas, and we hold a camp out once a month during the non-summer months here in Texas, and that's the big thing. Everybody wants to. We'll have 50, 60 people out there, and I would say 40, only 20. If we're lucky, 20 people will stay overnight. 40 people will go home, and it's because the fellowship of the campfire is magical. And maybe I'll change my third answer there. I should say the magic of enjoy the magic of a campfire with friends and family. And even if the friends were and even better, if the friends were strangers when the fire was lit.
Yes, right. That's beautiful. Wow. I also love the how you wonder a lot about the sky. You mentioned
Yeah,
throughout the interview, look at
yeah,
the stars, the Milky Way, and there's something about you see, like almost in awe with this mystery,
yeah.
right? With
I grew up fascinated with space, and I've never quite given it up. Here's one thing we'll tag on here at the end is another thing too is particularly if you're someone who's trying to become a creator or online, is always don't feel you have to be so niched down, so only focused on one thing. Humans you can be multi passionate people. I mean, as soon as we hang up here, I'm going to have to go do my job. In my day job, I'm the number 1 world expert on a particular type of technology, and many people don't even know I I even know what a star looks like, much less all my camping experience. And then my camping friends don't know they think I can't even turn on a computer. So
wow, interesting, right? See, you have been exploring like the experience of being a human from different angles and not really concerned with the contradiction, if it is, right? Some people think.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not.
And then my football friends don't know I know either one of those things.
Right. Yes, you see, that's beautiful. Yes, dancing with life as it is. Thank you so much for being you, Mark. It's really a lot of fun, meaningful fun. So
Oh, hey, my pleasure. My pleasure.
you
Thank you,
enjoy
Valeria.
yourself, take care of yourself, and we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now,
Sounds
Mark.
good.
Thank
Right,
you.
bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Mark Wilcox and his work, please visit campingforge.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.